Straight after Arsenal, we mentioned that, but Manchester City responded with a win at Forest. They did the job like they should have.
Yeah, like they should have, like a lot of people expected them to. It wasn't as nice as some people would have seen. But then you're playing against a team who are fighting for their survival at home on a slightly dry pitch.
We noticed that together, didn't we?
Straight away, yeah. But these, I'll be honest, I'll hold my hands up. I've been that team that've had a drier pitch. And it can affect the opposition because the passes don't zip the same. You know, when you want to pass into Rodri and it usually takes half a second, now it takes maybe
And the ball was going so slow, you could tell, like it was just...
Gives you, listen, Premier League, staying at survival, like you'll do anything you can and you'll save money on water as well. Do not forget that. Yeah. Do not forget that.
Sure. So coming back to Liverpool, Mo Salah and Jurgen Klopp had a massive argument on the touchline during that game at West Ham. I mean, it's one thing that their form on the pitch is not there and they drop out the title race. It's another to have a spat like that between their best player and their coach.
Yeah, well, you say it's their best player.
Well,
currently, would you say it's their best player?
Maybe not currently, but you know what I mean. Like,
I know exactly what you mean. And
what's going on?
I think it's unfamiliar territory for Mo Salah to be coming off the bench in a couple of games out the last few. It's also unfamiliar territory to see him missing chances as well.
Yeah.
But Jurgen Klopp's tried to make the right decision for the team, but it's not necessarily the right decision for Mo Salah. You can see there's a bit of frustration there. Like sure. I think Klopp himself, when you look at the footage from a fan behind the bench, Klopp likes to give a handshake and a hug to people coming onto the field. Salah's tried to show his frustration that he's coming off the bench and only gave like a handshake. But that goes against what like Klopp believes in, because you see him give massive hugs to Gomez and to Nunez. You know, that like player disappointment is a real thing. I think us seeing that from Salah is rare, but it's because we don't see Salah coming off the bench ever.
Yeah, true.
And he's not used to it. He's frustrated, but it's not a good look, especially as you look at both people. Maybe neither of them will be there next season as well. Yeah. And when your biggest star, even if he's not necessarily playing the best right now, is upset, especially the stuff after.
Yeah.
The big reveal when Klopp says to someone, yeah, for me, the matter's done. But Salah says, if I speak, there will be fire.
Yeah.
Listen, the matter's not done. The matter's not done, and you won't be moving on from it anytime soon.
We were on the radio together last weekend, and we discussed Salah, and we said there's a lot of things going on right now in his match. So the fact that he's not playing well, he knows that. As a player, you know when you're doing well and when you're not doing well, right?
Yeah.
Even more maybe for forward in the sense that he's not scoring goals.
Yeah.
So you can play badly but still score goals, and in a way that keep that keep it okay for you. But he's not scoring and he's not playing well. What is happening in the summer? He's got 1 year left on his contract. Not going to get a new deal. Well, it doesn't look like it unless Arne Slot, the new manager, says differently.
Unlikely, yeah.
Is he going to Saudi? So that is probably waiting on his mind as well. And then he gets dropped, not just for this game, but for 2 games before that as well. He was also left on the bench. So you can probably understand, like you said, that frustration and all those things mattering.
Mo Salah starts for Liverpool. Through his 7 years, however many years it's been when he's been there, he starts for Liverpool. He doesn't come off the bench. And I know there's a huge sense of ego there, and some Liverpool fans will hate that. When you're used to doing one thing, going to do another isn't something you readily accept, and you want to help the team out, but then there's also a sense of personal pride, which is now missing from that moment. But this is the way football goes, and I'm sure he'll get over it.
Nez, can you explain to us all what is happening at Liverpool, please, considering they dropped more points on Saturday away at West Ham, and now they're clearly out of the title race?
True implosion, isn't it? Given how well it felt like they were playing for parts this season, how they were right there until all of a sudden they drop points, then they drop points again, then they're losing 3-0 at home in the Europa League. This is just an example of how, like, football, it's just about scoring goals. They've had so many chances, they've had so many shots, but they've not been able to convert. And 1 game's okay. 2 games is a pattern. 3 games is an alarming trend to whereby all your opportunities are now disappearing. Yeah. Like, it's fair to say, in my mind, Liverpool haven't been horrendous, because there have been times this season where they've won games without playing, say, as well as possibly they're playing now.
Yeah, true.
But it's the business end of the season. You just have to get the ball into the net. We're just, talking about Man City, talking about Arsenal. This weekend in the North London derby and against Forest, those weren't their best performances, but they're 2 of their most important wins. Liverpool have kind of run out of that at this time. It couldn't be a worse moment.
But just how can you explain the fact that they don't take those chances? Because again, they outplayed, they had more XG than the opposition against than West Ham on Saturday. Like they did, I think, in the last 5 or 6 games. So clearly they have, I think Luis Diaz has hit the post like 13 times this season. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is it just bad luck? Is it the fact that you rush things because you've not been scoring?
No, it's not bad luck. It's bad finishing, and it's the sort of mental side of things that people go through. They're physically capable of scoring these goals. They're mentally capable of doing it, because we've seen them do it for years. But what I would say especially coming from a defender, is when you watch somebody miss chances at the start, you say unlucky, the next one. But as time passes and more chances are missed, it's a certain element of frustration. The same way an equal opposite. If an attacker watches the defender make a mistake that leads to a goal, you're like, unlucky next one, until those goals start to matter. And the ones they miss up top affect the way that people perceive the game at the back, because before you know it, you're playing against a good side and they will score against you. So when the season starts to unravel in the way it feels like it is for Liverpool, like that missed chance doesn't just affect the person that should have scored. It affects everybody because the bleed drops down just that little bit.
I just didn't think that players of that level could become that bad at finishing.
Listen, they're still scoring some goals, but they're probably about 2 levels away from having the yips where the goal seems like it's invisible now. But they'll be fine in the end. I guess they just need the season to end.
Week after struggling to beat Sheffield United at Old Trafford, Manchester United could not beat Burnley at Old Trafford. Nedum, I don't have any more words for them anymore.
Yeah, to be honest, if anyone wants to hear Julien Laurens' words about Manchester United, have a look online. Look back
it's just the same thing every week. I repeat the same thing.
You do repeat the same thing. So in fairness, you've spotted a pattern, and as a consequence, you're going to discuss it. But I think for the way that Burnley are, and the fact that Burnley are kind of fighting for their lives in some ways, you could talk yourself into this matchup mattering. But still, we're not supposed to see United draw at home.
Definitely not.
United playing Sheffield United and then Burnley consecutively at home should be the easiest thing in the world to even understand. You should not be behind for a single second. Should probably not even concede a goal. Like Sheffield United, obviously United won in the end 4-2. Sheffield United currently, I think they're going to break the 100 goals conceded marker unless they've gone past it.
97 against them, so far.
They're also having, points-wise, the 3rd worst season in the history of the Premier League, but they still scored 2 goals at Old Trafford.
Exactly.
Something you would never have seen before.
You know, when I wrote this question, I almost said after struggling to beat Coventry as well, I took it off because I thought it would be too much. You were trying to be positive. So I tried to be positive.
Listen, the fact is they won. There's 2 games unbeaten at home now. There's still got a cup final to come. True. So let's be positive.
Exactly. Mauricio Pochettino and his Chelsea players were not happy at all, Nedum, with Craig Pawson, who was the referee of their game away at Aston Villa on Saturday night.
We're going to talk about the goals disallowed at the end, yeah? Is that what we want to discuss?
But we can talk about the game before if you want.
Nah.
Because they came back from 2-0 down at the moment where it looked like, okay.
They came back from 2-0 down, and you could make a very good case they were the better team overall on the day, which is something that surprises a lot of people given how bad they were the game before. Arsenal. Or maybe Arsenal were great.
Yeah.
Let's spin it that way. Arsenal were great. But here's a tough away fixture to Aston Villa, and for them to come back the way that they did. But for me, I could see why that 3rd goal was disallowed, because it's not a shoulder-to-shoulder as such. And I think the fact that, I think it's Diego Carlos, he's the one that got pushed in the back.
Badia Shield.
He didn't react in a way which suggests that he was fouled, but I still think it's a foul.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Because with Badia Shield, he's tried to shove him out of the way.
Yeah.
And if you are going to be allowed to shove like that, then there's going to be carnage in the box as such. It's hugely disappointing because they thought they won it in the last minute, and that's why emotions are higher. But it feels like the right decision to me.
It's not a 50-50 challenge, right? And that's why I think he gave it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I think from a Chelsea perspective, there's so much frustration going on throughout the season that something like that will, like that will set you off.
Fuming. Sadly, for all the Sheffield United fans that we know, they've been relegated back to the Championship, while Everton, who beat Brentford, are staying up thanks to that result. So, Nedum, it means that 2 out of Luton, Burnley and Nottingham Forest will go down with Sheffield United, and one of them will obviously stay up. Which one will stay up? Or which ones will go down?
I think Forest are a better team than the other 2.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. But I
agree.
But I think Burnley are trending in the right direction to playing towards their potential.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I believe Luton, for the chances and stuff that they give up and the goals that they concede, I think they'll be going down.
Okay, so then it's between Burnley and Forest for you.
Yeah, and they play each other the last day of the season.
Yeah, they do.
And it's at Burnley as well, isn't it?
Yeah, that's at Burnley. And before that, Forest play Sheffield United as well. Not that it matters, but still.
Forest, Sheffield. I think Forest will stay up. Not least of all because I think they've probably got 2 points coming back in based on the deduction.
Yeah, we'll have to wait for the appeal, yeah.
I'll be surprised if they didn't get anything back, but I think anything at all that they get back makes a big difference for those teams down there who aren't winning. And I think as you look at it realistically, you want to say they're bad, you want to say Everton's bad and so on, but those 2 teams were in that position because of the deductions. And for the teams behind them, there is a sense that like they can catch someone, but it's like a false position as
Yeah,
such.
I agree with you.
You know, that's why Everton winning these last 2 games is less of a surprise, because realistically we've seen them win lots of games before that point anyway. So unfortunately, I think Burnley go down, but I think they go down with momentum, whereas I think Luton are falling backwards.
Yeah,
and I think
I agree.
Forest will probably just about do enough.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you.
Something's happened with Thiago Silva, Jules. What's going on?
Well, he announced this morning, on Monday morning, Ned, that he was leaving Chelsea at the end of the season. So he was out of contract. We knew this was very likely. But the announcement was made official today. After 4 years at the club, he thought he was going to come for 1 year. When Tuchel was at the club, and when he was already 35, going on to 36 years old. And I think he loved the club. He loved the fans. He was very successful at the beginning, of course, winning the Champions League in 2021. And he said 4 years, and now he's 39 years old. It's time for him to go back home to Brazil. I think the family wants to go home as well. He will probably have another year or two at Fluminense, when it all started for him, and then retires. But yeah, there's something where he cries on the video that the club put out. You know,
You're not
he's
buying
very,
the tears now.
And, I mean, I love him, and he's an emotional guy, and that's what I love the most about him. Even if I think at times you saw on the page that he just had that in him. And again, about controlling emotions. I just love the fact that he's so emotional with a lot of things in his own life, football or not football related. So I think he was great for Chelsea, and I think Chelsea fans loved him as much as he loved them. And it was a great story. And now it's just time for him to finish the cycle of his career.
He's just under 20 years too old to be playing for them at the moment as well, given how young their team is.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Fair play to him. He's been successful, and more power to him.
Well, third big congrats of the show, Nedum. This time for Leicester City, who are
back.
the first team promoted to the Premier League, back in the Premier League. Nedum, are you happy for them?
Yeah, I'm happy for them. I remember when they got promoted last, which was 10 years ago, and they came up the same year that I did. They came up, I think, as champions with Burnley in second. And then within 2 years, they'd won a league. Another couple of years later, they'd won an FA Cup. For the years before they got relegated, they were trying to qualify for the Champions League. You know, so they've got real significant history within the league in the last 10 years. And I think not least of all, credit to Maresca, who was one of the assistants for Guardiola last season.
That's right.
Remember, we were watching them train the day before the Champions League final.
Yes.
He was doing some crossing and finishing with the defenders. A year later, obviously, they've won that treble. But now he's brought his team back to the Premier League without the experience of understanding that division.
Very impressive.
With a club that's going through change.
In a tough league, as you know, it's a tough league, the Championship as well.
Yeah, it's 46 very torturous games. And for a second, we thought the wheels were coming off.
Yeah. Newcastle destroyed Sheffield United again, like they did in the reverse fixture earlier in the season. And Alexander Isak scored 2 more goals, Nedum, to take now his tally to 19 in 23 starts in the Premier League this season. Have you been impressed?
I've been very, very impressed. Not so impressed that I've had him in my FPL team, but I've been very, very impressed. But you know me, I'm chronically wrong, so it doesn't matter.
I've got him in my team.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Of course. But it is really impressive, especially given how bad a season they've had overall relative to their expectations. I think the season is finishing well for them. And I think at times, you know, availability has been one of their issues, one of his issues. You talk about 23 starts, he probably would have wanted to start more. He'd like to have been available for more of them. But you can see with strikers, especially ones of his quality, once they're feeling themselves and they're playing well, him and Gordon up top, you throw in a Harvey Barnes, the dynamism, his ability to dribble, obviously penalties matter as well. But he's like a top striker that's confident playing for a team that wants to attack. And not least of all, I think it's 13 goals they've scored against Sheffield United this season, isn't it?
I know,
which in itself is crazy.
It is,
but,
man.
you know, they're finishing the season in a far better way than I think most of us anticipated.
Yeah, for sure. They can still make it to Europe.
Exactly.
By the back door, but still.